Hello again, welcome to Black Moon Bear Healing. I'm Melanie Gardner and this is my group, for those of you that don't know. Today I would like to talk to you about another interest of mine that I haven't shared yet really, maybe in little bits and definitely in the course if you took part in the Gifted by Nature course. And that is our own spiritual ancestry, which goes back to the Celts and their way of life. Over the past few months I've actually learned a lot and delved more into what our ancestors would have done, what they would have believed, and that has really been quite eye-opening, because a lot of what we believe today, or a lot of what is in kind of neo-pagan and even some Wiccan literature, is not really accurate and not really fact-checked, which was a bit of a down at some points, I've got to be honest. I'm not going to share with you everything I learned in this video because I learned a lot. But I will share a couple of little things that I thought was interesting. If anyone is interested in like really getting into the Celtic ancestry and learning a lot more, there's a woman called Sam McLaren who has the Brigantia Wisdom page, if any of you have come across that. She has an absolute wealth of knowledge on Celtic culture and Celtic history, and has spent a lot of time studying and understanding the way that they lived, the way that they acted and the beliefs that they had. One of the things that I found really interesting about them was that they didn't just have the four elements that we have, the earth, the wind, the sea and fire. Why that went out of my head I have no idea. Anyway, yeah, they didn't just have the four. They actually had 9 elements, and they likened the earth very much to the human body. So they had the stones, which were kind of the bones and carried all of was the skeleton of the earth, and obviously the skeleton of us, and provided that support and that structure for everything else. They have the earth, which they liken to the flesh because it protects the bones and keeps it all safe. They had the plants, which they likened to the hair. The water, which was obviously blood. The wind, which they related to the breath. The moon, which they related to the mind. The sun, which they related to the face and the eyes. The clouds, which they related to the brain. And the skies or the heavens, which they related to the head. The Celts put a lot of emphasis on a person's head. They felt like a head really captured that person's essence. They lived in what was termed kind of an animist society, which believed, as evidenced by the elements that they revered, and they believed very much that everything has a spirit, everything has a soul, everything is connected, and our own kind of way of being was mirrored in the earth itself, and everything of the earth. Today we would call it an animist society, but a lot of people would also refer to it as some kind of British shamanism, and there is oh, hello again. There is another group called Centre for Shamanism, and she works a lot with kind of the British roots or the UK roots of shamanism. Shamanism is itself actually kind of a misunderstood and misinterpreted word a lot of the time. A lot of the time people look at shamanism and they think that you're talking about Native American culture, which is a shaman culture, but it's not the only one. That's like saying that paganism is only allowed to be followed by a specific culture, and that's just not the case. There are obviously closed practices or things that Native Americans do that aren't available to be shared with the general public, and that's absolutely fine. But the actual overarching term shaman means a culture that is connected with the earth and believes in the connection with the earth, and the belief that earth has a soul, has a spirit. The closest thing to, obviously the Celts themselves wouldn't have called themselves shamans. That's something that was later added to that kind of belief, that kind of practice that they had. The closest thing to modern day shamans that they would have had in Celtic times would have been called seers, and they were kind of in charge of healing and in charge of divination and those kind of acts. And then you had the Druids, that are very well known. They were kind of acted like the priests. They were in charge of all the rituals and all the legal ceremonies, and they kind of were the judges of the time, and kind of were very highly respected individuals within Celtic society. Then you had the Bards, who channeled the poems from the divine, that weren't just poems, weren't just kind of there to entertain, they were there to inform, and they were there to offer prophecy. They could also channeled spells and incantations, and they were in charge of the spoken word, of keeping that sacred and keeping their stories and their beliefs and their culture sacred and keeping it alive within the community. There is also a little bit of a misconception that, not if it's a misconception, but there's a difference of opinion. Probably a better way of putting it. There is a difference of opinion in modern kind of Druid groups that I've seen, in that there is a belief that Celts would have moved through levels from Bard to Seer to Druid, whereas the actual archaeological evidence that is present in today's day and age doesn't actually support that, and supports more of the belief that actually they were all equally revered positions within Celtic society. They were just very different ways of being. It's like saying that we're all aiming to be something specific, and we're not. We're all kind of adapting our fields and progressing within our respective fields. Not one is any better than the other, they're just different. So I think I've just gone over my 5 minutes, so that'll do for today. I will come back another time and talk about the Wheel of the Year, which may have some shocks for some of you because they only celebrated 4 of the festivals. Which ones? I will tell you next time. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye.